Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday edition of Video Clips, which is brought to you by Wellness Forum Health, the Wellness Forum Foundation, and Make Americans Free Again. A couple of things. We are taking applications from people who want to start a food over medicine club in their area or a MAFA tribe. Both are relatively easy to do, great ways to advance a healthcare practice or meet friends and help us save our country in some meaningful ways from medicine, saving our country from medicine. And never thought I'd have to say that, but I think that's what we're doing these days. So send me an email at pampopper@msn.com if you want to know more about that. And then our Cancer Summit is coming up March 21st and 22nd. It's a Friday night, all day Saturday and Saturday evening program with some amazing guest speakers who are going to talk about press pulse therapy, and the judicious use of keto diets for very advanced cancer. Dr. Gracie Yuen will discuss water fasting for cancer patients and sympathetic dominance. Avinoam Lerner, another special guest, healing cancer and trauma, the psychobiology of suffering. So we have some wonderful, wonderful speakers. We're adding more, and we will have survivors and their families for a panel discussion, and you'll be able to ask questions. So of course, we record all of these things. If you can't join us live, but you're really interested in the topic, you can watch this on the recording. So if you want more information on that, you can go to our website. We have a flyer posted in the special events or whatever section of our website, or you can email me. All right, so let's start the week with some good news. Ferocious MAFA lawyer Richard Chambers had another win in Massachusetts last week. The First Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that evidence showed that Christine Bedard's rights were violated when South Coast Hospitals Group, Inc. refused to recognize her religious exemption after the chain had mandated a COVID-19 vaccination policy for all employees in July of 2021. Bedard had been a registered nurse employed by South Coast at the time that the mandate was issued. She was terminated because she wouldn't comply with the vaccine mandate, and they would not recognize her religious exemption. Now, what makes this victory particularly delicious is that the court cited two other wins by Chambers as justification for its decision in this particular case. In other words, previous cases won by Attorney Chambers are now being cited by the court to support new cases brought to the court by Chambers. We can take a little victory lap and then get right back to work because we have to raise money because none of our plaintiffs, not one, can afford to pay the legal bills for the services that our attorneys are delivering. So yay for us, and then keep sending money, right? But I thought that was incredible. And Attorney Chambers even said when he sent out an email to us, yeah, it's particularly wonderful when they cite your own cases as justification for ruling in your favor on this. So we had that brief moment of joy, and let's go back to the real world. And I don't like to be the bearer of bad news, but I think I have made the point and justified it for the last 5 years that you can't put your head in the sand and pretend like stuff is not going on and then hope it's all going to come out just great, right? Well, President Trump just appointed an incredible swamp creature to head the White House Office of Pandemic Preparedness, which was created by Congress after the COVID-19 fake pandemic. So let's look at what this swamp-like agency is supposed to do. Improve strategy and coordination among our public health preparedness agencies, strengthen the supply chain and government stockpiles of medical products like masks, drugs, vaccines, and tests. You just have to love that, right? Improve our capabilities to detect and monitor emerging infectious diseases and other threats, including through updates to public health data to quickly provide comprehensive, actionable insight during public health emergencies. Enhance the development and review of tests, treatments, and vaccines, and mitigate critical shortages of medical products. Address disparities which make public health emergencies harder on at-risk populations and communities. Revitalize the public community health workforce, and you're going to love this one. Accelerate biomedical research to develop medical countermeasures for pandemic threats and faster test development, because faster test development is just really what we're all waiting for, right? Now, for the swamp creature who was appointed to head this swamp-type agency and make all of these lovely things happen, meet Gerald Parker. He's a veterinarian, which is so convenient since the next fake pandemic is going to be bird flu. He served as Associate Dean for Global One Health at Texas A&M University. So I went to the website for Global One Health and I found some really super interesting things, including, quote, support for zoonotic research, which is also known as gain-of-function research. Parker is a member of the Vaccine and Infectious Disease Organization, which is involved in the development and promotion of vaccines, including COVID-19, influenza, MERS, RSV, and Zika. He's a vaccine guy. Dr. Parker held senior executive level positions at the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Health and Human Services, and the Department of Defense. And you just have to have that bringing together of the defense and intelligence agencies along with health. You know, that worked out so great with COVID, right? Parker served as head of the National Science Advisory Board for Biosecurity during the Biden administration. And didn't we all love the pandemic response during those years? I won't bore you with all the details of this charming group's activities, but they're in favor of gain-of-function research with proper controls, you know, like the ones the United States has historically used that have worked out really well for us too. Now, as if that's not enough, a hearty endorsement from Dr. Ashish Jha, who was the COVID czar under Biden, really says it all. I've not been a fan of every choice that Donald Trump has made, and I've been very critical of many of them. This is one very good choice, says Dr. Jha. He said he'd consulted with Parker many times, describing him as widely known within the public health community as deeply knowledgeable, serious, not particularly partisan, but really just very focused on important issues. I do know that by picking Jerry Parker, I think at least the Trump White House is signaling they're going to take biological threats seriously, and they're going to have a serious person at the helm, Dr. Jha says. According to the White House, one of the first challenges Parker will have to tackle is the unprecedented spread of bird flu around the country. So, there you have it. I guess we're just not going to get saved by Washington. Shocking, right? Seriously, people, we're not going to get saved by Washington. This is not over. It can happen again. And so that kind of leads me to the next thing. Those of you who've been listening to me since 2020 know that Ohio was the model state for the rest of the country during the COVID debacle. Our little Mikey DeWine, and he is a little man, loves to protect Ohioans with draconian actions like locking down the state and closing the schools and closing businesses and mandating vaccines. He had his own COVID czar, Dr. Amy Acton, who is head of the Department of Health for the state of Ohio, and he met her while doing volunteer work in Haiti. And we know that only the best people in the United States go to work in Haiti, right? Like the Clintons. According to an investigation conducted by Operation Rescue, Acton suffered from mental health and addiction issues. On her medical license application, she checked off yes to this question: have you ever been treated but not hospitalized for emotional or mental illness, drug addiction, or an alcohol problem? Operation Rescue tried to obtain further details from the Ohio Department of Health, but was denied while she was still director. Now, this wouldn't have disqualified her, but to be head of DOH, or ODH rather, but this, along with other information uncovered by the Operation Rescue investigation, should have been considered when giving Acton control over the lives of 11.6 million people for several months. Well, this same little Mikey DeWine is still in charge of our state, and we have another swamp creature who replaced Amy Acton, who also, I wrote about her in my book, COVID Operation, told everybody that she was homeless, and she's hinted that she was abused and had to file a complaint against her mother, and all that turned out to be false. So you might wonder, why am I telling you all about this? Well, I mean, I don't want to rehash the past, but we're starting to hear about bird flu in Ohio. According to national experts, Ohio has reported the highest number of bird flu cases in commercial poultry operations in the entire country. As of now, over 10 million birds have been impacted since the beginning of 2025 alone. Every day, our poor excuse for a newspaper features stories about how dangerous things are right now, warning us about pets and the possibility of human transmission. Over 10 million birds have been killed since the beginning of 2025 just in Ohio. Now, skip to the national scene. An editorial on MedPage states that we need to ramp up testing now. Quote, we asked state governors and their public health and medical leadership to encourage and sponsor their large healthcare systems in coordination with state virology labs to test avian flu within their existing protocols when they test people for other diseases when they come in. In addition, testing for avian flu at the point of care might, since the strain is novel, detect cases not identified by the current practice of sending positive influenza A samples to state labs for further testing. This hypothesis needs further evaluation when rapid test production ramps up. Meanwhile, when looking for the breakout case, it's prudent to assume that standard influenza A testing may miss patient zero, and they are so anxiously waiting for patient zero. And you've seen a little bit here and there of human cases of bird flu being diagnosed and a little bit of hysteria. Only one person's died. We don't know the medical histories of these people, but it's escalating. And so the article goes on to say, in the event of human-human transmission, we must prepare for the worst-case scenario. Healthcare systems will need to minimize patients with suspected avian flu from mixing with other patients in busy waiting rooms, a generator of potential infection, not unlike a cruise ship. As with COVID, healthcare systems will need to establish drive-in or walk-in testing centers. Strangely reminiscent. And so what we have is progress being made. We had a little win last week, right? The case is moving forward. Money is coming in. Thank you very much for continuing to fund our efforts. We have a different administration. Some things may look better, but lurking off in the distance. Remember in 2020 when we thought everything was okay, and then all this stuff had been lurking in the distance and then started to creep in until it all exploded and became what it became. So we have a new office, a new person running the pandemic office of the White House who has all the best credentials in the world to do with bird flu, what Mr. Fauci did with COVID. We have the model state ramping up and claiming it's a crisis, and 3 other states have already declared a state of emergency. So this isn't a time to throw up your hands and feel helpless, nor is it a time to sit back and relax and think it's all taken care of, because it's just not. So we need to start tribes. We need to keep meeting. We need to grow our movement. We need to fund these lawyers. One good thing about now, well, there are many good things about now, the contrast with 2020, is that we're set up to take action immediately as this stuff begins, but that's only provided we keep our attorneys funded. So once again, thank you for your donations. Go online, buy merchandise, wear your Make Americans Free Again stuff around. And people do ask you about it. I've been bolder and bolder about where I wear my stuff, and people have asked me, what is that? And we have things on display in the office, and people come in and go, what is that? So start talking to other people. It's a good time to do it before a crisis hits. And maybe if we're lucky, we won't have a crisis, but it's better to be prepared with no crisis than it is to have a crisis and not be prepared. All right. That's it for today. As usual, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it. I will be back to you next week with more news. Thanks for watching.